Book of Heaven, Volume 1, Part 2. Yes, Lord, but give me the grace, for I see that by myself I can do nothing. And he continued telling me, yes, I myself will contradict you in everything, and occasionally by means of creatures. And so it happened. For example, if in the morning I woke up and did not get up immediately, the interior voice would tell me, you rest, while I had no other bed but the cross. Hurry up, not so much satisfaction. If I walked and my sight would run a little farther, immediately he would reprimand me. I do not want this. Do not let your sight move away from you, but the length of one step, so that you won't trip. If I was in the countryside and I saw flowers and trees, he would say to me, I have created everything for love of you, and you deprive your sight of this delight for love of me. Even in the most innocent and holy things, as for example the cloths for the altars, the processions, he would say to me, you must take no other pleasure but in me alone. If I was sitting while working, he would say to me, you are too comfortable. Don't you remember that my life was a continuous suffering, and you? In order to content him, I would immediately shift to half of the chair, leaving the other half empty. And sometimes, jokingly, I said to him, see, O Lord, half the chair is empty. Come and sit near me. Sometimes it seemed he would content me, and I felt such delight that I myself cannot express it. Sometimes then, while I was working a little slowly and listlessly, he would say to me, hurry up, help yourself, for in the time you gain by helping yourself, you will come and be with me in prayer. Sometimes he himself would assign to me how much work I was supposed to do. Then I would pray him to come and help me. Yes, he would answer me, we will do it together, so that when you have finished, we will be more free. And it would happen that in 1 hour or 2, I did what I was supposed to do during the whole day. Then I would go to pray, and he gave me much light and told me many things, such that it would be too long if I wanted to say them all. I remember that while I was alone, working, I noticed that the thread was not enough to finish that work, and that I would need to go to my family in order to get some. So I turned to him and I said, what is the purpose of having helped me, my beloved? As I see that I need to go to my family, I may find people who may prevent me from coming back here, and this time our conversation will come to nothing. What? He said to me, don't you have faith? Yes, well then do not fear, for I will make you complete everything. And so it happened, and then I would start to pray. If then at lunchtime I ate something tasty, immediately he would reprimand me interiorly, saying, have you perhaps forgotten that I had no other taste but suffering for love of you? And that you must have no other taste but mortifying yourself for love of me? Leave it aside, and eat that which you like the least. And immediately I would take it and bring it to the maid, or I would say that I didn't want it any more. And many times I remained almost on an empty stomach. However, when I would go to pray, I would receive so much strength and feel so satiated that I would feel nausea for everything. Other times then, in order to contradict me, if I did not feel like eating, he would say to me, I want you to eat for love of me, and as the food unites with the body, pray to me that my love may unite with your soul, and everything will be sanctified. In a word, without going any further, even in the smallest things, he tried to make my will die so that it might live only for him. He allowed that I be contradicted also by the confessor. As for example, I would feel a great need to receive communion. For the whole day and night I would do nothing but prepare myself. My eyes could not close to sleep because of the continuous throbbing of my heart. I would say to him, Lord, hurry, for I cannot be without you. Accelerate the hours, let the sun rise quickly, for I cannot endure any more. My heart is fainting. He himself would make me such loving invitations that I would feel my heart crack. He would say to me, see, I am alone. Do not be troubled because you cannot sleep. This is about keeping company with your God, with your spouse, with your all who is continuously offended. Oh, please, do not deny me this relief, because then in your afflictions I do not leave you. But while I was with these dispositions, in the morning I would go to the confessor, and without knowing why, the first thing he would say to me was, "I do not want you to receive communion." I tell the truth, this was so bitter for me that sometimes I would do nothing but cry. I would not dare to say anything to the confessor, because he himself wanted me to do so, otherwise he would reproach me. But I would go to him and tell him of my pain. "Ah, my good, is this the vigil we have kept last night, that after so much waiting and yearning, I was to remain without you? I know well that I must obey, but tell me something. Can I be without you? Who will give me strength? And then who will have the courage to depart from this church without bringing you along? I don't to know what to do, but you can remedy everything." While pouring myself out in this way, I would feel a fire come near me and a flame enter into my heart. I would feel him inside of me, and immediately he would say to me, calm yourself, calm yourself. Here you are, I am already in your heart. What do you fear now? Do not afflict yourself anymore. I myself want to dry your tears. You are right, you could not be without me, could you?" I would then remain so very annihilated within myself, and I would say to him that if I were good, he would not have disposed it that way. And I prayed him never to leave me again, for I did not want to be without him. After these things, one day after communion, I felt him within me, all love, loving me so much that I myself was very much amazed, for I saw myself as so bad and unrequiting. And I said within myself, if only I were good and requiting. I fear that he might leave me. I have always had this fear that he might leave me, and I still do. And sometimes the pain I feel is so great that I believe that the pain of death would be lesser. And if he himself does not come to calm me, I can give myself no peace, while he wants to draw more intimately close to me. While I felt him inside of me in this way, through an interior voice, he said to me, "My beloved, the things past have been nothing but a preparation. Now I want to come to facts. And in order to dispose your heart to do what I want from you, that is, the imitation of my life, I want you to sink into the immense sea of my passion. And when you have understood well the bitterness of my pains, the love with which I suffered them, who I am who suffered so much, and who you are, a most wretched creature, your heart will not dare to oppose the blows, the cross, which only for your good I have prepared. On the contrary, by just thinking that I, your master, have suffered so much, your pains will seem shadows to you compared to mine. Suffering will be sweet for you, and you will reach the point of not being able to be without sufferings. My nature trembled at the mere thought of sufferings. I prayed that he himself would give me the strength, because without him I would use his very gifts to offend the giver. So I gave all of myself to meditating the Passion, and this did so much good to my soul that I believe that all the good has come to me from that source. I pictured the Passion of Jesus Christ like an immense sea of light, which wounded me all over with his innumerable rays of patience, of humility, of obedience, and of many other virtues. I saw myself as all surrounded by this light, and I remained annihilated at seeing myself so different from him. Those rays that inundated me were as many reproaches for me. I heard them say, "A God so patient, and you, a God humble and submitted even to his very enemies, and you, a God who suffers so much for love of you, and where are your sufferings for love of him?" Sometimes he himself would make me the narration of the pain suffered by him, and I was so moved that I would cry bitterly. One day, while working, I was considering the most bitter pains that my good Jesus suffered. I felt my heart so oppressed by the pain that I was out of breath. Fearing something, I wanted to distract myself by going out to the balcony. I go about looking in the middle of the street, but what do I see? I see the street all filled with people, and in the middle, my loving Jesus with the cross upon his shoulders. Some pulled him to one side, some to another. All panting, with his face dripping with blood, he raised his eyes toward me in act of asking for my help. Who can say the sorrow I felt, the impression that a sight so pitiful made on my soul? I immediately went inside. I myself did not know where I was. I felt my heart split with pain. I shouted, crying. I said to him, "My Jesus, if only I could help you. If only I could free you from those wolves so rabid. Ah, I wish at least to suffer those pains in your place, to give a relief to my sorrow. Oh, please, my good, give me suffering, for it is not fair that you suffer so much, while I, a sinner, remain without suffering." From that time on, I remember that such a great yearning for suffering ignited within me, that it has not dampened yet. I also remember that after communion I would ardently pray him to concede me suffering, and sometimes, to content me, he seemed to take the thorns from his crown and prick my heart. Other times I felt him take my heart in his hands and squeeze it so tightly that I felt faint for the pain. When I realized that people might notice something and he was disposed to give me these pains, I would immediately say to him, "Lord, what are you doing? I beg you to give me suffering, but that it be hidden to everyone." Up to a certain time he made me content, but my sins have rendered me unworthy to suffer hidden without anyone noticing it. I remember that many times after communion he said to me, "You will not be able to truly resemble me other than by means of sufferings. Up until now I have been together with you. Now I want to leave you alone a little bit, without letting myself be felt. See, up to now I have led you by the hand, instructing you and correcting you in everything, and you have done nothing but follow me. Now I want you to do it by yourself. However, be more attentive than before, thinking that my gaze is fixed on you, though I do not let myself be heard, and that when I return to make myself heard, I will come either to reward you if you have been faithful to me, or to chastise you if you have been ungrateful to me." I would be so frightened and terrified. Upon such intimation, I would say to him, "Lord, my all in my life, how can I survive without you? Who will give me the strength? How can this be? After you have made me leave everything, so much so that I feel as if no one existed for me. You want to leave me alone and abandoned. Have you perhaps forgotten how bad I am, and that without you I can do nothing?" And because of this objection, assuming a more serious look, he would add, "The reason is that I want you to understand well who you are. See, I do this for your good. Do not be saddened. I want to prepare your heart to receive the graces which I have designed for you. Up until now I have assisted you sensibly. Now less sensibly. I will make you touch your nothingness with your own hand. I will fuse you thoroughly in profound humility in order to be able to build most high walls upon you. So instead of afflicting yourself, you should rejoice and thank me, because the more quickly I make you cross the stormy sea, the sooner you will reach the port of safety. The harder the trials to which I will submit you, the greater the graces I will give you. Courage then, courage, and I will come back soon." And in saying this, he seemed to bless me, and then he would leave. Who can say the pain I felt, the void he left in my interior, the bitter tears I shed? But I would resign myself to his holy will. It seemed that from afar I would kiss his hand which had blessed me, saying to him, "Goodbye, O holy spouse, goodbye." I felt as if everything was over for me because I had him alone, and since he was missing, no other consolation was left to me, but everything would convert into most bitter pains. Even more, creatures themselves would provoke my pain in such a way that all the things I would look at seemed to say to me, "See, we are works of your beloved, and he, where is he?" If I looked at the water, at the fire, at flowers, and even at stones, immediately my thought would say, "Ah, these are works of your spouse. Ah, they have the good of seeing him, and you do not see him. "Oh, please, works of my Lord, give me news. Tell me, where is he? He told me he would come soon, but who knows when." At times I would reach such bitter desolation that I would feel breathless, ice cold all over, and a shiver throughout my whole person. Sometimes my family would notice it. They attributed it to a corporal malady and wanted to put me under treatment and call doctors. Sometimes they insisted so much that they succeeded, but I would do as much as I could to remain alone. So they noticed it only a few times. I remembered still all the graces, the words, the corrections, the reproaches, and I could see with a clear eye how all the work done until then, everything had been the work of His grace, and that there was nothing left of me but the mere nothing and the inclination to evil. I could touch with my own hand how, without Him, I could no longer feel love so sensibly, and those lights so clear during meditation, such that I would remain there for 2 or 3 hours. However, I did as much as I could in order to do whatever I used to do when I felt Him within me, because I felt those words being repeated to me. "If you are faithful, I will come to reward you; if ungrateful, to chastise you." In this way, I would spend sometimes 2 days, sometimes 4, more or less as He pleased. My only comfort was to receive Him in the sacrament. Ah, yes, certainly I found Him there. I could not doubt, and I remember that only a few times He would not let Himself be heard, because I prayed Him and importuned Him so much that He would content me. However, not loving and lovable, but severe. After I would spend those days in that state described above, especially if I had been faithful to Him, I would feel Him come back within me. He spoke to me more clearly, and since during the previous days I had not been able to conceive one word or feel anything within me, I came to know then that it was not my fantasy, as I would say many times before, so much so that, of what has been said up to here, I would not say anything, either to the confessor or to any other living soul. But I did as much as I could to correspond to Him, otherwise He would wage such a war against me that I would have no peace. Ah, Lord, you have been so good to me, and I still so bad. Continuing what I had started, I would feel Him within me. I would hug Him. I would clasp Him to myself and say to Him, "Beloved good, see how bitter our separation has been for me." And He would say to me, "What you have gone through is nothing yet. Prepare yourself for harder trials. This is why I have come, to dispose your heart and to fortify it. Now you will tell me everything you have gone through, your doubts and fears, all of your difficulties, that I may teach you how to conduct yourself during my absence." So I would make Him the narration of my pains, telling Him, "Lord, you see, without you I was unable to do anything good. The meditation, I did it all distracted, ugly, so much so that I would not have the courage to offer it to you at communion. I was unable to stay there for hours, as when I could feel you, I saw myself alone. I had no one with whom to converse. I felt completely empty. The pain of your absence made me experience mortal agonies. My nature wanted to hurry up so as to escape that pain. More so, since it seemed to me that I would do nothing but waste time, with the fear that in coming back you might chastise me because I had not been faithful. So I didn't know what to do. And then the pain that you are continuously offended, and of not knowing when to do, as you taught me before, those acts of reparation, those visits to the most holy sacrament for the different offenses you receive. Tell me a little bit then, what should I have done? And He, benignly instructing me, would say, 1, you were wrong in being so disturbed. Don't you know that I am Spirit of Peace? And the first thing I recommend is that you do not perturb the peace of the heart. When in prayer, you are not able to recollect yourself. I do not want you to think of this or that, of how it is and how it is not, because by doing so, you yourself call the distraction. Instead, when you find yourself in that state, the first thing is to humble yourself, confessing yourself as deserving of those pains, placing yourself in the arms of the executioner, like a humble little lamb that, while being killed, licks his hand. So you, while seeing yourself beaten, disheartened, alone, you will resign yourself to my holy dispositions. You will thank me wholeheartedly. You will kiss that hand of mine that strikes you, recognizing yourself unworthy of those pains. Then you will offer to me those bitternesses, anguishes, tediums, praying me to accept them as a sacrifice of praise, of satisfaction for your sins, of reparation for the offenses that they give me. By doing so, your prayer will ascend before my throne as most fragrant incense. It will wound my heart, and you will draw new graces and new charisms upon yourself. In seeing you humble and resigned, all sunken into your nothingness, the devil will not have the strength to get close. And here is how: where you thought you were losing, you will make great gains.